'Tis the season for apples, and I wanted to get some tips, so I went straight to the source, Martin's Family Fruit Farm. So come with me, let's find out some more. So Steve, when did you guys start thinking about planting apples? How did that come about?
It's actually an interesting story. Our farm has been in our family since 1820, and so 7 generations. When my dad took over the farm, in the early 60s, he actually turned it into a hog farm, fair to finish. But it was in 1969 when we had an exchange student from what was then Yugoslavia who came over, and his specialty was actually orchards and vineyards. And but he convinced Dad that there's no reason we shouldn't be able to grow apples in this area. And so helped Dad plant about 100 apple trees that year, and a few years later Dad planted a few more, and a few years after that, and I guess the rest is history.
A lot of people, when they hear apples, they might think of only 3 or 4 types initially. How many types of apples are there?
Oh, there is hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of varieties of apples.
And you don't grow them all, do you?
No, not quite. We grow between 20 and 25 varieties, but really only about 12, 13 varieties that are really predominant. We grow a number of early summer varieties that are just here for a week and then they're gone again. And then we also grow some heritage varieties like Tallman Sweet and snow apples, that type of thing.
So when is the best time to get apples, or is there a different?
The prime time for picking apples, when we're picking the varieties, we start picking some of the main varieties at the beginning of September, and we pick right through until the end of October. And obviously apples, like anything else, soon after they're picked, a lot of varieties are best, almost straight off the tree. And so, a Mac or something like that, it's pretty hard to beat, when they're fresh. But one of the unique things about apples is because of so many different varieties and because of the way that they store, some varieties actually taste better, almost a month after they're picked. For instance, the Ida Reds or the Fuji or even the Spy and the Crispin or Matsu, those are varieties that taste better after they've sat for a little while. And so some of those are really only starting to get good as it gets close to Christmas. And then, of course, with the modern storage methods that we have now, with controlled atmosphere seed or storage, which is a low oxygen storage, apples really store well all year round. And we are constantly, we have customers that are constantly amazed at how good the apples, and they talk about how good some varieties are yet even as late as July of the next year. So there's really no reason why people can't enjoy good Ontario apples all year round.
What is the biggest misconception about apples that you come across?
Like anything else, food costs, apples have been affected by rising energy costs, by rising labor costs, and apples in particular, like other tree fruit, are very, very labor intensive. And so, although they can be plentiful, it still is a very, very costly crop to grow. And if we were going to continue to grow them here in Ontario, and if growers are going to continue to want to not only want to grow them, I think growers want to grow them, but if they're going to be able to make their living do it, then we're, as consumers, are going to have to be willing to pay a fair price for them. And it's, with the whole local food thing and so on, one of the positive things that I've seen come out of that is that consumers, I think, are really gradually catching on to that fact, and I hear it almost constantly. People say, if we can't grow apples here in Ontario anymore, what can we grow? I mean, there really is nothing more Canadian or especially Ontario than an apple. I mean, that is our fruit.
I guess in the past couple of years, people are starting to appreciate our farmers more. Would you agree?
I would say so. Or there's maybe, slowly a consciousness of the fact that if we don't, if consumers, if the public on a whole does not support the local farmer, that we will lose them. I think to a certain extent they've been taken for granted over the years, But as you see, you know, less and less farmers, and you see less and less young farmers, you know, there's just not a lot of young farmers taking on the farm, and for very good reasons. It's a hard way to make a living. And I think people are catching on to that and starting to become concerned. And there's a lot of good reasons. I mean, yes, if you take only one reason for going local in your food supply, you can maybe find a counter reason to say, yeah, well, is it that important? But when you take all of them combined, everything from food safety, food security, the local economy, as well as the environment, and you put all of those together, which I could probably spend 10 minutes on each of them if I obviously don't have that time, but if you put all of those together, you really do have a very good argument to support local food. And I think people are gradually getting that message, gradually understanding, and are actually feeling good about the fact. And I didn't even mention the nutrition and the good taste and all of that, you know, of the freshness.
Steve Martin's wife, Rose, here is going to share with us a little bit about how to serve apples raw. She's got a killer secret recipe that she's willing to share with us. I'm so excited to learn about it. And sometimes when it comes with apples, people think you got to bake for hours or cook for hours to enjoy apples. But sometimes, you know, raw is best. Sounds easy to me. So, Rose, you want to share with us some of your secret ingredients for your secret recipe? It's exciting.
Sure. It's not so very secret. This is a recipe that I've really enjoyed using with raw apples. It gets people eating apples that otherwise might not. And it's very simple. It uses cream cheese, sour cream, brown sugar, vanilla, and a little bit of the scored toffee bits.
So you're serving it with a little bit of, you know, sour cream and cream cheese.
Yep.
There's a protein element.
Yep, and that has all been beaten in here, so I will stir the score bits into the dip. You can use light cream cheese and light sour cream, and I've really cut down on the sugar factor.
But only if you want to. But like anything else, even with vegetables and dip, if you just put, you know, just a little bit of dip, that'll actually go a long way when it comes to putting it on a raw fruit or a vegetable.
You just need a little tablespoon. This was a real hit at our harvest celebration. People were asking for the recipe, so there's the dip.
Beautiful.
And we have Anjou pear here, which also goes very well with it.
And what I appreciate about serving fresh fruit just with a simple dip is that people have the option. If they want to forgo the dip, they can forgo it. And if they want the dip, because some of us are just, you know, we have sweet tooth, some of us, then they can go for the dip, which is kind of nice.
That's right.
So if people come over and all you have is a couple apples, you still have potentially a beautiful little tray to serve them, because this looks delicious. This is good for you.
Yep.
It was simple.
And it uses things that most people have in their kitchen at any given point.
Which is awesome. So what kind of apples do you have here? I noticed you have a couple different varieties.
These are all ambrosia.
Okay.
Very new kind, even newer than the Honeycrisp.
Oh, very nice.
And it's been a very hot seller. It's sweet, crisp, similar taste to the Gala, but it has more of a crunch and holds its crunch longer.
Excellent. So whether it's raw, baked, or deep fried, as they say, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. So come on down to Martin's Family Fruit Farm and load up.